makes sense to have our cities planned, to have our infrastructure planned in anticipation of our population that will hit 50 million by 2057, instead of just waiting to see things happen.
The world is evolving in such a way that if you don't take a long-term view of your development, you will be swamped.
You have to look at where you are, you have to look at the resources you have to look at the environment, you have to look at the tools that you can get if you don't have yourself, get from outside, to help you get to where this nirvana of the day when I feel like I'm happy.
Ghana, an emerging economy. The West African nation, with a population of about 24 million, is the second largest producer of cocoa in the world and is home to the Lake Volta, the largest artificial lake in the world. It is also an exporter of gold, bauxite, manganese, and timber. More than half of its population live in urban areas, which are ill-planned, characterized by congestion, unregulated urban expansion, limited access to services and affordable quality housing, and institutions unable to cope with the rapid transition. Ironically, the African nation is not new to development planning. From the colonial period to now, the country has been through a number of development plans. Notable amongst them is Sir Gordon Gordonsberg's 10-year development plan, Kwame Nkrumah's 7-year plan, and Vision 2020. Clearly, these plans have not satisfactorily delivered on their vision. In 2011, during the review of the 1992 Constitution, it became apparent that once again, the country would need a long-term vision and plan if it was to accelerate its development.
When we did the Constitution Review Commission hearings, Ghanaians overwhelmingly called for the development of a long-term national development plan as a way of bringing some sanity and continuity into national development. But there's also what we call the demographic imperative for long-term planning, where you look at the dynamics of population and therefore the need for you to plan. By the year 2057, we should hover around 50 million.
Consequently, the National Development Planning Commission has proposed a long-term vision for the country, a 40-year development plan to nurture the country's development.
When you use the term 40, it sounds like too far into the future. The person who would be president of Ghana in 2057, in all likelihood, is already in a high school here in Ghana or possibly in university. The MPs, the chieftains of industry, they've all been born already.
40 years from now, all the people who are under 20 will still be 60 years or less, most of them anyway. We know how many of them there are. We know their distribution over the surface area of Ghana. We can find out, if we don't know, what skills they have. Planning is what gives you the occasion to say, if I really want to do this journey and arrive at my destination, I better examine all these things very carefully.
If you know you have this vision for the future, and in 5 years you can see that you are nowhere near achieving it, you begin to panic. You begin to put in place measures which take you closer to that goal. It forces you to confront your deep-seated problems, not just their manifestations. It also allows you to understand the enormity of these problems and therefore what it will take, the discipline it will take, the sacrifices, and what you need to be doing. And it's a good accountability tool.
A long-term plan for a nation casts a long-term vision of what we want to see the nation look like over a period, and sets out the roles that different institutions, organizations, departments must play, sets out the investments that we must make, the roles we must build in order to deliver this vision. It sets out the targets that we need to meet to achieve the realization of the vision.
The vision will revolve around two key elements: economic and social development.
We want Ghana to be, by that year, to have found its competitive advantage, its niche in whatever aspect of manufacturing. We want Ghana to be, value-added manufacturing exporting country.
social development is a very critical way of measuring how a country is developing. It's about education, it's about health, nutrition and food security. It's about the quality of jobs we have. And this is a very critical part of social development, because if you have a good job, a job which earns a decent wage, or a job which is productive, highly productive, it allows you to deal with many other aspects of social development, like buy good health, buy food and security and so on. It allows you in your old age to have a sense of security after all the hard work and contributions you've made to Ghana. So that's a very critical part.
One country that is known to have developed following a long-term vision is South Korea.
At the starting point, we didn't have any industrial basis. So we borrowed the money from European countries and also the United States. And the government selected some good businessmen in proper area. The government started to support with this money. Business people, including the other Korean public, was very eager to be well off. So we also have the campaign to let's live well.
According to the South Korean ambassador, if this vision is to succeed, the country will have to be strict on meritocracy.
We have a system to select officials through examination. Meritocracy is very, very important. Firstly, the recruitment system of civil servants should be improved or changed. And then also the important thing is the training and education of civil servants. You can raise the morale. You can educate civil servants to be far from the corruptions and or unfairness or some cronyism.
Changing attitudes is part of the plan, what the Ndpc describes as the soft issues, but critical to propelling and upholding economic and social development.
We must begin to respect time, for example. You see, those are the soft issues of development that too often we don't talk about. But the respect for time is critical. Respect for order is critical. Without those things and several others, you really aren't going to go very far.
Once the vision is drafted and passed into law, it will be binding on all future governments. A 40-year framework with goals and objectives.
Every government that comes to power for 4 years will make its own plan in the context of that. So it allows political parties the freedoms of their ideologies, their priorities, and all sorts of things.
Before we even launched the process of preparing the long-term plan, we started what we call political mobilization exercise, which hadn't been done before, which has actually turned out to be good because it led to a lot of public discussion, which is still ongoing. In addition to informing the president that this is what we're doing, we informed the two former presidents also. We informed the leadership of parliament. We informed the judiciary. Then, in addition to the Council of State, we also visited the 6 leading political parties. They all agreed that, yes, we need a long-term national development plan.
I want to ensure that this plan benefits from such a large body of popular acceptance and civil society buy-in that no political party can jettison it without paying a high political price.